The battlefield of Kalor burned under two suns. Smoke rose from black craters and the air was thick with dust and fire. Human soldiers shouted through the chaos, their armor shining with laser burns. Plasma bolts from alien cannons flashed across the broken land like lightning. Ethan Cross ran through the smoke, clutching his rifle, breathing hard through the heat. He was a soldier of the Terran fleet, trained to fight and survive. But this war felt endless. He had lost count of how many battles he'd fought on alien worlds. Each one looked the same, fire, screams, and the smell of burned metal. Squad 3. Move up, move up! He yelled into his comms, but there was only static. The enemy had jammed the signal. Ethan looked around. His team was scattered, lost among the ruins of an alien city. He could only see shadows moving through the fog. Some human, some not. Then he saw movement, something small trembling behind a broken wall, a figure. At first, Ethan raised his gun, ready to fire. But then he saw her. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't even human. A young alien girl crouched there, eyes wide with fear. Her skin glowed faintly silver blue under the dusty light, and her clothes were torn. She looked weak, hurt, and completely out of place on this battlefield. For a moment, Ethan froze. He had been told all Kalorians were dangerous. But this girl, she looked terrified, like she had no one left. "Hey, it's okay," Ethan whispered, lowering his weapon. "I'm not going to hurt you." The girl looked at him, confused, not understanding his words, but his tone made her pause. She reached out slightly, her hand trembling. Before Ethan could take another step, a loud whine filled the air. Incoming plasma grenade. His helmet sensors screamed a warning. The glowing orb rolled between them, its energy rising fast. The girl gasped, eyes wide in horror. Ethan didn't think. He just moved. He threw his rifle aside and jumped forward, wrapping his arms around her. In that instant, the grenade exploded. A blinding flash consumed everything. The shockwave slammed into him like a wall. Shrapnel tore through his armor. He felt pain, sharp, burning pain, but he held on to the girl, shielding her as best he could. The sound was gone now. Only a deep ringing filled his ears. His vision blurred. He could barely breathe. He fell to the ground, still holding her. Blood spread beneath him. The world faded, but he forced one last look at the girl. She was alive. Trembling, crying, but alive. He smiled weakly. "You're safe now." His vision dimmed. The battlefield turned to black. Then came silence. Or maybe not silence, something strange. A soft humming sound like 1,000 whispers blending together. He tried to move, but his body felt weightless, floating. Voices spoke in a language he didn't know. Alien words, calm and rhythmic, surrounded him like waves. "Subject is stable," one voice said. "The nanites are responding." Ethan tried to open his eyes, but light stabbed into his brain. He felt heat around his chest. He tried to breathe, and something cold moved through his veins. His heartbeat, slow but strong, echoed in his ears. He wasn't dead. He wanted to speak, but no words came out. Only a breath. The voices faded again. He felt pressure in his head, a pull as if his body was being rebuilt piece by piece. Metal. Energy. Something alive. Then, a flash. Images ran through his mind. The girl's face, the explosion, the stars, his own reflection, except his eyes were glowing. Suddenly, he gasped and sat up. He was no longer on the battlefield. The air was clean, glowing faint blue. Strange symbols floated on the walls around him. He lay on a metal table surrounded by alien technology, smooth, beautiful, and alive. Standing near him was the same alien girl, alive and unhurt. She looked at him with gentle eyes full of relief and sadness. "You're awake," she said softly. Her voice echoed in his mind, not in his ears. Ethan tried to speak, but his throat felt dry. Where am I?" "You're safe," she said. "You saved me. I couldn't let you die." He looked at his hands and froze. His skin shimmered faintly blue under the light. Thin glowing lines ran across his arms, pulsing like veins of light. Something inside him was moving, alive, mechanical. "What did you do to me?" he whispered. Before she could answer, the room shook. Red lights flashed. A robotic voice spoke from the ceiling. "Security breach. Containment failure." The girl's face turned pale. "They found us." Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Ethan tried to stand, still weak, his vision flickering. The girl grabbed his hand. "Please," she said. "You have to trust me." He looked into her glowing eyes, then nodded. Outside, soldiers shouted orders in an alien tongue. Weapons charged. And as the door burst open, Ethan realized one terrifying truth. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He wasn't fully human. The sound of alarms filled the glowing chamber. Red lights flashed across the walls, reflecting off strange glass panels and silver machines. Ethan tried to move, but his body felt heavy, like his muscles no longer belonged to him. His head throbbed as if 1,000 voices whispered inside it. The alien girl gripped his arm tightly. Her touch was warm, almost electric. "We must go. Now," she said. Her voice wasn't just in his ears, it was inside his mind. Ethan tried to stand. His legs trembled, but something strange helped him balance. He felt energy humming under his skin, flowing like current. The lights from his veins pulsed faster with every breath. What's happening to me?" he asked, his voice rough and weak. "You were dying," the girl said quickly, pulling him toward the door. "I had to use the nanites." "They rebuilt you, rebuilt me," Ethan repeated, still dizzy. "What does that mean?" Before she could answer, a metallic door slid open with a loud hiss. 3 armored alien soldiers stepped inside, weapons raised. "There," one shouted in their harsh language. "The human abomination lives." Ethan's instincts kicked in. He grabbed the girl and dived behind a glowing pillar as energy bolts tore through the air. The blasts hit the walls, exploding in bright green sparks. He felt the adrenaline rush through him, faster, stronger than before. His heartbeat thundered like an engine. When another blast came, Ethan moved without thinking. He swung his arm forward, and a pulse of blue light exploded from his hand, knocking one soldier across the room. He froze, staring at his own glowing fingers. "What the hell was that?" The girl looked at him wide-eyed. "You're adapting faster than I thought." Before the other soldiers could recover, she lifted her hand. A wave of soft light spread from her palm, and the soldiers dropped to the ground unconscious. She turned to him and said quietly, "We don't have much time. They'll send more." "Who are they?" Ethan demanded, following her through a narrow hallway lined with flickering lights. "The Kyle Dominion," she said. "My people. My father's army." "Your father?" She nodded, not meeting his eyes. "He is the Emperor of Kalor." Ethan stopped walking. "Wait, your royalty?" She looked back, guilt flashing in her silver blue eyes. "I didn't want to be. I ran away. They were going to use me for something terrible." They entered another chamber filled with machines that looked alive, breathing softly. Tubes carried glowing liquid through walls. The air hummed like music. Ethan stared around, amazed and uneasy. "So where are we now?" "A research base," she said, deep under Kalor's surface. "I brought you here after the explosion. The med unit healed your body. But to save your life, I had to connect your cells to mine." "Connect?" "Yes," she said quietly. "You are now part human, part Kalorian." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He looked down at his hands again, those faint blue veins glowing under his skin. "You turned me into one of you?" "I didn't have a choice," she said softly, stepping closer. "You would have died within seconds." "I couldn't let that happen." Ethan took a slow breath. "Why? You didn't even know me." She looked at him for a long moment. "Because you saved me. No one has ever done that for me before." There was silence between them. For a second, the alarms faded into the background. Then the floor trembled. A distant explosion shook the chamber. "They've breached the lower levels," she said urgently. "We must reach the hangar before they trap us." They ran through a corridor glowing with blue light. Ethan's strength grew with every step. He could sense the movement of the soldiers ahead, as if his mind could feel their presence. "How do I know where they are?" he asked breathlessly. "The nanites," she explained. "They connect you to the energy field of this world. You can feel life around you now." "That's insane," Ethan muttered, but part of him felt alive in a way he'd never felt before. As they turned a corner, a blast door sealed shut behind them, cutting off the noise of pursuit. They entered a smaller room filled with floating crystals. Light shimmered through them like water. Ethan stopped, staring at one crystal that pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. "What is this place?" "It's a memory core," the girl said. "It holds the history of my people." "Your name," Ethan said suddenly. "I never asked." She looked at him, a small sad smile forming. "Lyra, Lyra," he repeated softly. "I'm Ethan." Another explosion echoed somewhere above them. Lyra's smile faded. Ethan, they'll kill you if they catch us. They think you're a monster now. He clenched his fists, glowing veins flickering brighter. Then they'll have to try. Lyra nodded. There's a ship in the next chamber. We can escape, but only if we reach it before the soldiers do. They turned toward the door. Footsteps echoed on the metal floor behind them. Voices shouted orders. Lyra looked at Ethan with fear in her eyes. They're here, Ethan's gaze hardened. The lights in his skin flared bright blue. For some reason, he said quietly, I don't feel afraid anymore. The door burst open and the alien soldiers stormed in. The metal doors exploded open with a blinding flash. Ethan barely had time to react. Soldiers in black Kalorian armor rushed in, their weapons glowing with blue plasma, the air filled with the hum of energy rifles charging to fire. Lyra pushed Ethan behind a metal console. Stay down, she shouted, her voice trembling. She raised her hand, and a wave of shimmering light shot forward, knocking two soldiers back. Ethan peeked over the console. The corridor was full of smoke and chaos. His heart raced, but his body felt alive, too alive. He could feel the pulse of every blast, the rhythm of every sound. His new senses burned like fire under his skin. He clenched his fists, and the faint glow under his veins brightened. I can fight, he said through gritted teeth. Lyra turned to him, panic in her eyes. You don't know how to control it yet. But it was too late. Ethan stepped out into the open. The nearest soldier fired. Instinct took over. Ethan moved faster than human reflex should allow. The bolt missed by inches as he slammed his hand against the wall. A pulse of blue energy rippled out from his palm, hitting the attackers like a shockwave. They flew backward, armor cracking, weapons scattering. The air sizzled with static. Ethan blinked, shocked by his own power. What did I just do? Lyra grabbed his hand. You're syncing with the nanites, but they react to your emotions. If you lose control, they'll consume you. He didn't have time to reply. More soldiers were coming down the hallway. Red warning lights flashed above them. The sound of metal boots echoed through the corridors like thunder. This way, Lyra shouted. They ran. The corridors twisted like veins through the alien base, glowing with blue light. Each step echoed off the metal floor. Ethan could hear voices on the comms, orders being shouted in a harsh alien tongue. Contain the hybrid. Kill the princess if necessary. Lyra's face hardened, but she didn't look back. They'll destroy us both. They reached a narrow bridge stretching across a deep shaft filled with glowing energy. The hum was deafening. Beneath them, swirling light moved like a living storm. This leads to the hangar, Lyra said. But we must cross fast. Halfway across, the bridge trembled. Behind them, a group of soldiers appeared, firing without warning. Plasma bolts tore through the air. One hit the railing beside Ethan, sending sparks flying. Ethan grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her forward. Keep moving. She stumbled but kept running. Another blast struck the bridge. It cracked, groaning under the impact. Jump, Ethan shouted. They leapt just as the bridge collapsed behind them, falling into the glowing storm below. They landed hard on the other side, rolling across the floor. Lyra groaned but got up quickly. Ahead, a massive door led into the hangar. Through the glass panels, Ethan could see the stars. Ships hovered in rows, guarded by drones. Lyra placed her hand on a glowing panel beside the door. Access code, Keth Ryan 02. The door slid open. As they stepped inside, the vast hangar spread before them, a cathedral of steel and light. Alien ships floated in magnetic locks, their hulls gleaming with strange runes. The smell of energy fuel filled the air. Ethan's eyes scanned for something small and fast. Which one can we fly? Lyra pointed to a sleek silver craft near the far wall. That one. It's mine. I used it to escape before. They sprinted toward it, but just as they reached the ship, a booming voice echoed through the hangar. Stop right there, traitor! Ethan turned. A tall Kalorian commander stepped out from the shadows, his armor black with gold trim. His helmet split open, revealing a face with glowing white eyes. Princess Lyra, he said, his voice cold. Your father wants you alive, but the human... He dies now. Ethan raised his fists, the light in his veins flaring brighter. "You'll have to go through me first." The commander smiled cruelly. "Gladly." He raised his hand, and a bolt of pure energy shot toward Ethan. It hit his chest, sending him flying backward into a metal crate. Pain ripped through his body, but the nanites reacted instantly, healing the burn in seconds. Ethan stood up slowly, smoke rising from his armor. The commander's smile faded. "That's impossible," he growled. Ethan stepped forward, his eyes glowing. "I guess you haven't met a human who refuses to die." He charged, faster than the alien could move. Their clash echoed across the hangar, metal on metal, power against power. Sparks flew as Ethan blocked a strike with his forearm, then slammed his fist into the commander's chest, cracking the armor. Lyra ran to the ship and powered it on. "Ethan, get in!" Ethan turned and sprinted toward her. The commander tried to stop him, but Ethan unleashed another energy pulse that threw the alien across the hangar. He jumped into the ship, slamming the hatch shut. Lyra's fingers danced across the controls. The engines roared to life. Blasts from the hangar guards hit the hull, shaking the cockpit. "Hold on," Lyra shouted. The ship lifted off, breaking free from the locks. Ethan watched through the viewport as the hangar doors opened to the stars. "Are they following?" he asked. Lyra's eyes glowed as she pulled the controls. Not for long. The ship shot into space like a beam of light, leaving the burning planet behind. For a moment there was silence. Just the stars, endless and bright. Ethan looked down at his glowing hands and whispered, "What am I becoming?" Lyra looked at him softly. Something new. Something the galaxy has never seen before. Outside, distant warships began to move, both human and alien. The real chase had just begun. Stars drifted slowly outside the ship's glass canopy. The chaos of battle was far behind them now. Only silence filled the dark sea of space. The silver ship floated quietly between giant rocks of an asteroid field hidden from the scanners of both human and Kalorian warships. Inside the cockpit, dim blue lights glowed. Ethan sat in the co-pilot seat, staring at his reflection in the glass. The faint blue glow beneath his skin pulsed softly, like the rhythm of another heartbeat. He clenched his fists. "Every time I breathe, I can feel it inside me," he said quietly. "Like something alive." Lyra sat at the controls, her long silver hair flowing around her shoulders. She turned slightly, her voice calm but tired. "The nanites are alive. They're part of you now. They listen to your thoughts and your emotions." Ethan let out a dry laugh. "Great. So if I get angry, I might explode." Lyra smiled faintly. "Not explode, but you could burn everything around you if you lose control." Ethan sighed and leaned back. "That's comforting." For a while, there was silence again. Only the soft hum of the ship filled the air. Outside, the asteroids moved slowly, like silent giants drifting through eternity. Finally, Ethan spoke. "Back there, that commander, he called you Princess. You said your father is the Emperor. Why were they trying to kill you?" Lyra hesitated. Her silver blue eyes looked far away, lost in thought. "Because I disobeyed him," she said softly. "My father wanted to use me, to activate the core beacon. It's a weapon that can control energy on a planetary scale." "A weapon?" Ethan repeated. "What for?" "To end the war," she said, "by destroying Earth." Ethan's hands tightened on the armrests. "Destroy Earth? You mean billions of people?" Lyra nodded slowly, guilt written all over her face. "Yes, he believes humans are dangerous, that your people will never stop expanding, never stop fighting. He thinks this galaxy isn't big enough for both of us." Ethan looked at her, anger and confusion mixing in his eyes. "And what about you? Do you believe that?" She looked down. "I used to, but then I saw you, on that battlefield. You were hurt, dying, and still, you protected me. No Kalorian would have done that for a stranger." Ethan leaned forward slightly. "So you ran away?" Lyra nodded. I stole this ship, took the healing nanites and escaped. My father sent soldiers to hunt me. Then I found you, dying under the fire. I didn't want another life lost because of me." He stared at her for a long time, his voice quieter now. "You risked everything to save a human soldier." "I didn't save a soldier," she said softly. "I saved you." The words hung in the air like light from a dying star, soft, heavy, and full of meaning. For a moment, Ethan didn't know what to say. He looked at her, really looked at her. The glow of her eyes, the quiet strength in her voice, the sorrow she carried like a shadow. Outside, a small asteroid hit another, creating a slow-moving cloud of shining dust. It looked like fireworks frozen in space. Lyra stood and walked to a small panel at the side of the cockpit. She touched it, and a holographic map of 2 galaxies appeared. One marked Earth glowing blue, the other Kalor glowing red. Between them stretched a line of tiny lights, warships. "The war is close," she said. "Your fleet and mine are moving toward each other. They'll clash in less than a cycle." Ethan stared at the map, then turned to her. "There has to be a way to stop it." Lyra looked down sadly. "There is, but it's dangerous." He raised an eyebrow. "Define dangerous." "The core beacon," she said. "If I reach it, I can shut it down forever. But the Dominion will kill me before I get close." Ethan stood up. "Then I'll help you." Lyra's eyes widened. "No. They'll destroy you too. You're not ready. You don't even understand what you are yet." He took a step closer. "Maybe not, but I know who I am. I'm a soldier. I don't run from wars. I end them." For the first time, Lyra smiled, a real soft smile. "You humans, you always think you can fix everything." Ethan grinned faintly. "We're stubborn like that." Suddenly, the radar on the console beeped sharply. Red dots appeared on the holographic display. 3 Kalorian ships entering the asteroid field. Lyra's smile vanished. "They found us." Ethan moved to the window. Blue lights flashed in the distance. "How many?" "Too many," she whispered. "They're scanning for us. We have minutes." Ethan's veins began to glow brighter. "Then let's make those minutes count." Lyra looked at him, half afraid, half amazed. "What are you going to do?" He turned to her, a faint grin on his face. "Something new. Let's see what this alien tech can really do." He placed his glowing hand on the ship's main console. The nanites in his veins spread energy through the system. Lights flickered. The ship's power surged higher than before. Lyra's eyes widened. "Ethan, stop. You're linking with the core." "I know," he said calmly. "Let's give them a reason to be afraid." Outside, the asteroids began to shift as the ship's energy field expanded. The Kalorian hunters drew closer, and as the first enemy ship appeared through the mist of dust and stone, Ethan's eyes glowed white. The ship shuddered violently as bright blue light flashed across the asteroid field. Ethan's pulse raced, his hands still glowing against the control panel. The nanites inside him roared with power, responding to his will like living fire. "Ethan, stop. You're overloading the core," Lyra shouted. Sparks danced across the dashboard as warning lights filled the cockpit. Ethan gritted his teeth. "Just a little more." A shockwave erupted from the ship, sweeping through the asteroid field. The pursuing Kalorian fighters were thrown off course, crashing into floating rocks and vanishing in flames. The radar cleared. Silence returned. Lyra stared at him, eyes wide. "You destroyed them all." Ethan pulled his hand away from the console, breathing hard. The glow in his veins faded slowly. "No," he said quietly. "We survived." But before they could rest, a deep rumble shook the ship again. A shadow fell over them, massive, dark, and cold. Ethan looked through the window and froze. A colossal ship had appeared from hyperspace above them. Gray hull, human markings. "The Terran Fleet Earth Command," he whispered. Relief flickered in his chest. "We made it. They'll help us." Lyra's face turned pale. "Ethan, no." The human ship's voice boomed through their comm system. "Unidentified craft, this is Captain Reeves of the TFS Valor. Power down and prepare for boarding. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." Ethan's relief faded. "Reeves?" he said softly. "That's my old CO. "Then maybe they'll listen to you," Lyra said uncertainly. Ethan nodded. "They will. He's a friend." But as the Terran ship's docking claws latched onto them and the airlock hissed open, Ethan's gut twisted with unease. The humans stormed in, armed and cautious. Their guns were raised, their faces cold and unreadable. "Hands where we can see them," one shouted. Ethan stepped forward slowly, raising his hands. "It's me, Sergeant Ethan Cross, Terran Marine, 47th Division. I'm not your enemy." The soldiers hesitated, but only for a moment. Then one of them noticed the faint blue lines glowing under his skin. "Sir," the soldier said nervously into his comm. "The humans infected." Ethan frowned. "Infected? What are you talking about?" Then Captain Reeves entered the chamber. His old commander, broad-shouldered, gray-haired, the same steel eyes Ethan remembered. But now those eyes looked at him with disgust. "Ethan Cross," Reeves said coldly. "You're supposed to be dead." "I almost was," Ethan said. "The Kalorians captured me. This girl, Lyra, she saved my life." Reeves's gaze shifted to Lyra, who stood silently behind Ethan. Recognition flashed across his face. "That's the Kalorian princess," Ethan nodded. "She's trying to stop the war." "We both are," Reeves laughed softly. "Stop the war? You mean help them win it?" Ethan took a step forward. "That's not true." Reeves raised his hand and the soldiers aimed their rifles. "Don't move, Sergeant. You're not fully human anymore, are you? My intel says the aliens rebuilt you with their tech. That makes you a security threat." "I'm still me," Ethan said. "You know me, sir. I've bled for this uniform." Reeves's eyes hardened. "Then you should have died wearing it," Lyra gasped. "You can't." Before she could finish, two soldiers grabbed her arms. She struggled, but they forced her down. Ethan stepped forward. "Let her go." Reeves didn't even look at him. "Take them both to the holding bay. The girl goes to containment. The hybrid," he paused, then added darkly, "to medical research." Ethan froze. "What?" Reeves leaned close, his voice low. "You're not a soldier anymore, Ethan. You're a weapon. And I intend to find out how you work." He turned and walked away. Ethan lunged, but the soldiers struck him with shock batons. Pain exploded through his body. He fell to his knees as electric current crawled under his skin. The nanites tried to fight it, but the energy fields were too strong. Lyra screamed his name as they dragged her down another corridor. "Ethan!" He tried to rise. "Lyra!" The metal doors slammed shut between them. Hours later, Ethan awoke inside a glass containment chamber. Wires and tubes ran from his arms. Machines hummed softly around him. He could see his reflection, half human, half glowing alien. Reeves's voice came through the speaker. "The scientists say your nanites are unlike anything they've seen. You're living proof of alien integration." Ethan glared at the glass. "You're making a mistake. She's not the enemy." Reeves ignored him. "The girl's being interrogated as we speak. Once we have the Kalorian codes from her, we'll strike first. Earth will end this war before it begins." Ethan's heart pounded. "You're going to start it, you idiot." Reeves leaned closer to the glass. "You used to understand, Cross, humanity first." He walked away. Ethan closed his eyes, breathing hard. The rage inside him was rising. He could feel the nanites stirring, whispering in his mind like a storm. The machines monitoring him began to beep faster. "Calm down," he told himself. "Stay human." But then, through the sound of his heartbeat, he heard something faint. Lyra's scream. It was distant, but it cut through everything. "Ethan, help me!" His eyes snapped open, glowing bright blue. The nanites answered his call. The glass chamber trembled. Cracks spread across its surface like lightning. Ethan stood slowly, fists clenched, voice low and shaking. "They want a weapon?" he growled. "I'll show them one." The chamber exploded in a burst of blue energy. The glass chamber exploded in a burst of blue fire. Shards flew across the lab, slicing through wires and screens. The alarm screamed as smoke filled the air. Scientists dove for cover, shouting for security. Ethan stood in the center of the wreckage, breathing hard. The glow in his veins blazed brighter than ever, streaks of light running across his body like living lightning. The nanites hummed in his blood, waiting for orders. He could hear Lyra's scream echoing in his head, not just through sound, but through the connection. Her fear burned in his mind like a beacon. "Hang on, Lyra," he muttered, his voice low and rough. "I'm coming." The door burst open and armed guards rushed in. "Get down," one shouted. They fired. Blue plasma bolts filled the room. Ethan moved like water. The bolts slowed in his vision. Time itself seemed to stretch. He raised his hand and the energy bolts curved away, bending through the air and slamming back into the soldiers. The impact sent them flying into the walls. For a second, the room was silent except for the hum of broken machines. Ethan looked at his reflection in a cracked monitor. Glowing eyes, half-metal veins. A human heart beating inside something no longer human. He whispered to himself, "What have they turned me into?" Then he remembered Reeves's words. "You're a weapon." A bitter smile crossed his face. "Fine, then I'll aim myself." He tore the control panel off the wall and stepped into the corridor. Red emergency lights flashed, painting everything in shadows. The ship trembled. Far above, the engines roared as it prepared for hyperspace. He ran. His footsteps echoed down the metal hallway. As he passed, security drones activated from the ceiling, targeting him. Ethan spun, eyes flashing, and extended his arm. A wave of energy pulsed out. The drones exploded midair like firecrackers. The nanites whispered again in his mind, showing him paths, doors, life signs. He felt the ship like it was part of him. He could sense where Lyra was being held. "Deck 12, interrogation bay," he murmured. Meanwhile, inside the interrogation room, Lyra was strapped to a cold metal chair. Wires connected to her temples glowed red. Captain Reeves stood behind the glass, arms folded, watching her struggle. "Tell me where the Kaelorian fleet hides," he said through the speaker. "Give me their codes, and maybe I'll let your hybrid friend live." Lyra's head lifted slowly. Her voice was weak but defiant. "You call yourself human," she said softly. "But you've lost your soul," Reeves smirked. "Souls don't win wars." The lights flickered. One of the guards glanced at the console. "Sir, the hybrid, he's broken containment." Reeves turned sharply. "Seal the deck." "Lock down." The wall exploded. Ethan stepped through the smoke, eyes blazing white. The guards opened fire, but every bolt froze midair, hanging like blue stars before reversing course and slamming back into their armor. He walked toward Reeves slowly, every step echoing like thunder. "You should have left her alone." Reeves drew his sidearm. "You're not thinking straight, Cross, you're infected." Ethan stopped inches from him. "No, Captain." "I'm finally awake," Reeves fired. Ethan caught the bullet with his bare hand. The metal melted in his palm. Lyra watched in awe. "Ethan!" He turned to her and ripped the restraints apart. The wires sparked and snapped. Reeves staggered back. "You're throwing away everything we fought for." Ethan faced him, eyes cold. "You fought for control. I fight for life." Before Reeves could respond, Ethan unleashed a surge of energy that shattered the room's walls. The floor shook, alarms blared, and the glass observation window exploded outward. They ran. In the hangar, chaos reigned. Soldiers shouted orders as fire spread through the ship. Escape pods launched one after another into the void. Ethan and Lyra sprinted through the smoke toward a small transport. "You can't escape, Cross." Reeves's voice boomed through the intercom. "The fleet's preparing to strike Kaelor. You can't stop it." Ethan slammed his fist into the door controls, forcing them open. "Watch me." They climbed aboard. Lyra took the pilot's seat, hands flying over the controls. "Ethan, the fleet's targeting the Kaelorian capital. If they fire, both sides will destroy each other." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we end it now." He touched the ship's core. The nanites flared through his veins, linking with the engine. The lights dimmed, then pulsed with his heartbeat. "Ethan, you're merging again." "You'll burn out," Lyra warned. He looked at her and smiled faintly. "Then I'll burn bright enough to stop them." The ship roared to life. Blue light poured from its engines as it shot out of the hangar into the darkness of space. Behind them, the TFS Valor erupted in flames, consumed by the power he unleashed. Lyra turned to him, eyes full of both fear and wonder. "You're not human anymore." Ethan looked at the stars ahead. "Maybe not. But I still fight for them." He closed his eyes. Through his mind, he could feel the two fleets and thousands of ships on both sides ready to kill. He whispered, "No more war." And the stars began to tremble. The stars burned like frozen fire around them. Ethan's small ship shot through the void, leaving behind the wreckage of the TFS Valor. The engines glowed with bright blue light, powered not just by fuel, but by Ethan's own pulse. Lyra sat in the co-pilot seat, hands shaking over the controls. "Ethan, you can't keep this up. The nanites are consuming you." He didn't answer. His eyes glowed faintly, staring out at the vast battlefield ahead. Two massive fleets faced each other. One human, one Kalorian. Thousands of ships, thousands of lives waiting for the order to kill. "They're going to destroy everything," Lyra whispered. Ethan clenched his fists. "Not if I can stop them." He closed his eyes, reaching into the storm of energy inside him. The nanites responded instantly, a wave of power spreading out from his body into the ship, into the stars, into the fleets themselves. He could feel every heartbeat on both sides. Soldiers scared, commanders angry, and captains waiting for war. "Ethan, you're linking too deep," Lyra shouted. "You'll lose yourself." He opened his eyes, voice calm. "Maybe that's the price." Inside the Kalorian flagship, Emperor Kale stood at the front window, watching the human fleet with hatred in his glowing white eyes. "Prepare the core beacon," he ordered coldly. "Once it fires, Earth will be dust." But then something strange happened. The stars outside flickered. The ship's lights dimmed. Every system shuddered as if touched by an invisible force. "Your Majesty," one of his officers stammered. "The beacon, it's deactivating." Kale turned sharply. "What?" "That's impossible." A soft voice echoed through the ship's comms. Calm, deep, human. "This war ends now." The Emperor froze. "Who is this?" The voice replied. "The one your daughter saved." Back in Ethan's ship, Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "He can hear you. My father can hear you." Ethan nodded slowly. "Good." He extended his hand toward the stars, and a wave of energy pulsed outward, visible light rippling across the battlefield. Both fleets' engines flickered. Weapons powered down one by one. On the human flagship, officers panicked. "Sir, our systems are collapsing." Captain Reeves, bloodied but alive from the wreck, stared at the screens. "It's him. Cross, he's shutting us down." "Then fire everything," another officer shouted. Reeves slammed his hand on the console. "No, not this time." He looked out at the stars, whispering, "End it, son." Ethan felt the energy surge around him like an ocean. The nanites began to merge with his cells completely. His human skin shimmered with light. His voice was both his and something greater. Lyra looked at him, frightened. "Ethan, your body, it's changing." He smiled faintly. "Maybe it's finally becoming what it was meant to be." She reached for his hand. "Please don't leave me." He squeezed her hand gently. "You said something once, that no one ever saved you before." She nodded, eyes trembling. "Then let me be the first, and the last one, whoever has to." He turned back to the stars and let go of everything holding him back. The fear, the anger, the pain. His consciousness spread across space, flowing through both fleets. He could see memories, soldiers on Earth, children on Kalor, lives that would never be lived if the war continued. He whispered into the silence of the universe. "Human or alien, we all bleed the same light." And then he unleashed it. A brilliant pulse of blue and silver light expanded across space. Every ship, every engine, every weapon shut down at once. The core beacon cracked, then shattered into dust. For a moment, the galaxy fell silent. Lyra shielded her eyes, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Ethan," she screamed. But when the light faded, the pilot's seat was empty. Only faint glowing dust floated in the air like tiny stars. She reached out, whispering, "No." Then a soft voice echoed in her mind. Ethan's voice. "I'm still here, just somewhere higher." She smiled through her tears. "You did it." "No," his voice whispered. "We did." The ship drifted quietly between the two silent fleets. The humans and Kalorians watched the glow fade from the stars, unsure of what had just happened. For the first time in decades, no one fired. Weeks later, peace talks began. The war was over. In the new Alliance headquarters on Kalor, Lyra stood before a memorial, a small crystal sphere that pulsed with faint blue light. Inside it shimmered the energy pattern of Ethan Cross, the man who had stopped a galactic war. A young human soldier approached her. "Is it true that he was the first hybrid?" Lyra smiled softly. "He was the first and the last." He gave up being human to remind us all what humanity truly means. The soldier nodded respectfully and left. Lyra placed her hand on the crystal. You're not gone, Ethan. You became part of everything. Outside the window, the stars shimmered brighter, as if they had heard her, and for a brief second, one star pulsed blue, her lips curved into a gentle smile. I'll see you again, when the stars call.